Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi at Temple B'nai Israel, and we are coming to you from the studios of MCTV, located in the basement of the Avalon Theater. Have an interesting show today. Two public figures, one state, one local. Our first guest, who you will not see here because we did this virtually and by remote, is our state comptroller, Peter Prancho. And Peter was kind enough to give us a fair chunk of time to talk about issues that are facing the state economically, taxes and that sort of thing, and we're appreciative to Peter for his time. Second guest will be our mayor, Mayor Robert Willie, and we're going to talk about what's happening in Easton, what has happened, a number of things that have already taken place, and things that are happening around the city. So I look forward to our first guest, our state comptroller, Peter Prancho. I'm delighted to introduce, actually he needs no introduction, but I will introduce a distinguished leader and a dear friend, Peter Prancho, comptroller of the state of Maryland. And Mr. Comptroller, thank you for taking time and being on the Rabbi's Roundtable.
It's a pleasure. The Rabbi's Roundtable is one of the special gems in the state of Maryland, and I'm very grateful. I love coming to Talbot County because Collinger, this wonderful editorial cartoonist who recently passed away,
Yes,
sadly, had this famous cartoon of someone getting up in the morning and opening their refrigerator in Easton, and there I was inside the icebox and curled up. And the caption from Collinger was "You again?" ? So I love Easton, I love Talbot, I love the shore, and I'm delighted to be with one of the very special people in the state of Maryland, Rabbi Peter Hyman.
You're very kind. Thank you. So there are a number of questions that I want to address, and we'll just start off the bat. Starting with question one. The IRS got the 2022 tax season underway in January, on January 24th, and they set the filing and payment deadline for April 18. You, Mr. Comptroller, announced the state extension of the filing and payment deadline for Maryland taxpayers until July 15th, which is, I think, wonderful. Could you share with us why you did that? And how does that help folk in Maryland and businesses and individuals? And did COVID-19, which we've all been suffering from and trying to get past, did the pandemic play a role in this decision?
Well, yes, it did. And thank you for the question. I also, as comptroller, announced a month ago that the state has a $6 billion one-time only surplus. It's unprecedented in the history of the state of Maryland. And I was happy to say that the state is run well fiscally, and we have this huge amount of money. Where did it come from? $4 billion of the $6 billion came from the federal relief plan, which put a fire hydrant of cash, almost $70 billion over 2 years, into the state of Maryland. It's very important. It was very welcome. They were printing the money in the basement somewhere down in Washington. That's okay because it stabilized our state's economy. And $4 billion of the unanticipated tax revenue came from that. The other $2 billion came from my action. Unilaterally, I'm the only comptroller in the only state in the union to give this 90-day interest-free, penalty-free loan to small businesses and state taxpayers. And I've done it the last 2 years, and it's documented. It proved each year was $1 billion extra in unexpected revenue. In analyzing it, Rabbi, I think what happened is that allowing people to keep their tax payment in their pocket past April 15th and moving it to July 15th allowed a lot of small businesses to survive coming out of the winter season into the summer season. Therefore, we had each year $1 billion in unanticipated revenue. And 600,000 Marylanders have taken advantage of it the last 2 years. We know that it works. We know nobody stiffs us for the amount. They just take a 90-day loan from the state, and it's had a very beneficial impact. Well, the reason I like it so much is you don't have to fill out an application. You don't have to go and give your financial stuff to some state agency asking for federal or state relief.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to file with us. You just wait until July 15th to send us your 2021 taxes. And there's a certain beauty to it because the companies and the individuals that don't need to take advantage of it, i.e. they're doing better, they're doing okay despite COVID, they go ahead and pay us because they don't want to fool around and worry about something. So it's an elegant form of relief to Maryland small businesses and families, particularly with children. So I'm very proud of that. There were a lot of people that suggested that this was going to be taken advantage of by fraudsters and others. It wasn't. They also said some people won't pay their taxes. They all paid their taxes. And I like it because the rest of the relief plan has been very questionable as to whether the money that poured into the state went to the people who really needed it.
Interesting. Well, your leadership and your vision was spot on, and how fortunate for those who were able to and needed to take advantage of that.
Now, this only applies to Maryland state taxes. You still have to pay your federal taxes on April, I think 18th is the year this year.
Yeah.
But I really want to impress upon people that, we're expanding it. Just to give you a little bit of news outlet, we're going to expand it later on this week because we left out estimated taxes. So we're going to say to people, the estimated tax you owe the state of Maryland on April 18th, you can delay it, that first quarter of estimated taxes, and you can pay it with your second quarter on July 15th.
Wow.
And so we're going to continue to promote this just because, unlike the other relief plans, you don't have to have a lawyer or a lobbyist or someone on your payroll to submit whatever the heck it is, and then find out because, oh my goodness, you had the lease started on this date rather than that date, you don't qualify for anything. So this is just a recognition from the comptroller's office in Maryland that we know there's a lot of economic consequences out there that are still being felt, and we wanted to continue our quiet support.
Well, it makes a difference, and thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership and for your insight. I mean, thank you. It's
if it hadn't worked, I would have been an ex-comptroller. So I'm happy to take some small credit.
No, well deserved. Let me move on. What tips do you have for Marylanders to help them get their refunds if they are owed any?
Well, the main thing is to call you, and if you know them, you can call me on my cell phone, and I'll take it up just like that. But they also can call our 800 number, MD Taxes, MD like Maryland Taxes, TAXES. And we generally, at least pre-COVID, we answered 800,000 phone calls within 60 seconds. And it was a live, friendly voice of somebody that could help people. Well, and we also have an electronically, I guess when you call the 800 number now, one of the numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4 that you press is if you have a refund, if you want to find out where your refund is. Okay. The best thing to do is, to contact us, be a little bit patient. That number again is 410-260-7980. Well, that's from Central Maryland. The main number is 800 MD Taxes, but let me just, for the heck of it, give to your listeners, and Mayor Willie, who's sitting there in the studio, I think, can write down the number too. He's got it, of course. But my personal cell phone number is 301-332-1961. And I give that out if people want, have some, not just a where's my refund, because the refunds take a little bit of time. We usually average 2.5 business days, but it's taking a little bit longer in the COVID. But if they have a question that they really are frustrated by, they can call my personal cell phone, text it, voicemail me, and let me know, and I'll have somebody call back and get the answer for them.
Thank you. That's very gracious. With so many people um, vulnerable, and we read about scams and fraud schemes almost daily. Um, can you tell me or tell our viewers what your agency has done to prevent or to in some way create barriers to this kind of activity and be protective of the rest of us who don't engage in this kind of stuff?
Well, we're very aware of fraud because the fraudsters that plague us with, we kind of play whack-a-mole with them. They constantly are coming up with innovative ways to request the state of Maryland to pay out a fraudulent tax refund. When I first became comptroller 16 years ago, I was stunned to hear that the federal government didn't even bother with any fraud detection. They just paid out all the fraudulent requests. And they claimed that they didn't have the apparatus to do it. We've worked for many, many years to set up a systemic, very strategized approach to detecting fraud and preventing it from looting the Maryland State Treasury. And we've, knock on wood, we've done very, very well. COVID has provided a big relief to the fraud issue that we have in the comptroller's office. We're still getting tens of thousands of fraudulent returns. We identify them through algorithms and other sophisticated methods.
Wow.
The thieves are very, very sophisticated, but most of the thieves have moved on. They're not bothering us right now because they're going after the COVID relief funds.
Oh,
for example, they looted from the state treasury $2 billion in unemployment, false unemployment claims. $14 billion has been spent out of federal and state money going through the wonderful Department of Labor. Our experts estimate that 2 of the 14 billion, 2 billion of it, went directly to fraudsters out of state and many times out of country. So folks in Russia and China that are getting Maryland state unemployment monies. And the governor had a unemployment claim filed in his name. I've had one filed in my name. None of them went through for us, obviously, because we have people around us who say, well, the guy's still employed, don't pay unemployment. But many, oh my goodness, the fraud has just been rampant.
That's
and in that and in Medicaid also. So the fraudsters are very sophisticated. They tend to be super smart, and they will deliberately attempt to break into an agency's account by giving all sorts of false requests for money. And the agency that will then get complacent and say, oh, we recognize that, and we're not going to pay any of those. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they get into that frame of mind that they've got it covered, the fraudsters come in with a very sophisticated, subtle claim and rob the state blind. And it's not because they're bad people in state agencies. There aren't. They're very hardworking, decent people. They've never experienced the professionalism of these thieves. And but we also have another big issue that affects individuals. Many of them could be in Talbot County, which is called elder fraud. This is something different. This is not directed at the state treasury. It's directed at individuals. And you could ask me about that because that's a big problem.
Yeah. Is that part of the SAFE program that you've been dealing with?
Yes, and
SAFE. Let me just. Stands for Stop Adult Financial Exploitation.
So yes, now this is this is a very difficult situation because often, frankly, it's members of someone's own family or someone who's a caretaker. Because when you get old, you lose a little bit of your sharpness. And my mother, bless her soul, she's passed away, but end of her life, she thought all these direct mail requests from crazy people in politics that used to descend on her, she thought they were bills, like utility bills. So she would, write out a check for everyone that came in. Fortunately, it was, $20. But other elder fraud abuse is much more tragic. And there was a recent instance in Maryland, and I'm working on it right now, where an elderly person who was completely there mentally, she was in a assisted living facility. She happened to have a large amount of money in her checking account, $200,000. She also had a very unfortunate habit of leaving signed checks on her desk for people that would come in and do whatever the tasks were, cleaning the apartment, et cetera. That was a big mistake because somebody created an identical check and cashed it for $175,000. And it went to a totally fraudulent Chinese technology company somewhere. And I'm trying to get it back because the two banks are very large international multi-billion-dollar entities. And, I'll be talking to the presidents and the senior people saying, can you please, you may not legally be responsible here, but you've got to make this person whole again. She's now had to leave her assisted living. She can't afford it. And she's moved in with a relative.
Wow.
And that was done by somebody who, should be in jail, and we should throw away the key. Or someone said,
wow, that's frightening.
Really, really bad people do that.
That's frightening.
But unfortunately, everybody needs to be on guard because sometimes there's financial pressure on folks that are frankly related to these elderly folks and or their own caretakers sometimes take advantage. And I don't mean to stigmatize anybody. I'm just saying everybody out there needs to be on have their elbows up.
I totally agree with you, without question.
And once again, if someone does get scammed, they should let the comptroller's office know, and we will make sure the law enforcement hears about it. But really, trying to get the Easton Police or the Talbot Police or even the state police down on the shore involved in these things, it's a little bit, they're wonderful, our law enforcement, but they're completely ill-equipped to find somebody in southern Florida who's sitting there electronically stealing money. I mean, they're just not.
Yeah,
it's two different worlds, and so we rarely find these people and rarely punish them. Our best thing is just recognizing what they're doing and preventing it in the first place.
Very, very frightening, and I'm glad you're on top of that for sure. That's devastating in many ways. I can only imagine. This month we've celebrated Black History Month, and as you know, we have so many notable Marylanders: Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. How does Maryland compare in regard to its diversity, and how does our diversity benefit our state?
Well, obviously we're a very diverse state, and I believe out of diversity comes strength.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not somebody that thinks this person's better than that person. I happen to think that we're better together. And I'm a big believer in that. And for example, I support labor unions. I know that labor unions are opposed by some business people. I don't agree. I think having, for example, my agency was collectively bargained. The legislature demanded I do it. My directors were very reluctant, but when we did it, we had people from diverse backgrounds.
Yep.
People of, employees. It was a diverse ethnic group, and it included everybody in the agency's representatives. And my directors, who opposed this very, very strongly in the beginning because they didn't want a union doing organizing work in a place like the comptroller's office where we have a lot of confidential tax information. They were very opposed in the beginning. I said, guys, let's experience it. Keep an open mind. 3 months later, everybody came back and said, this is the best thing that ever happened to the agency. Everybody's sitting around the table. Everybody's included.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do in Maryland state government and local government. Make sure that everybody's heard. And if we do, we'll avoid things like what Elijah Cummings, you left off Elijah Cummings, one of the,
Yes, right, of
you know,
course.
right up there with
Absolutely.
Tubman and Douglas is Elijah Cummings.
Yep.
He sat down with me several years before he passed away, and he told me something very personal about his growing up in Baltimore City on the west side of Baltimore. He said, you know, I went to a segregated elementary school and middle school, and when it came time to take the state exams, all of us had to leave the segregated black school and walk down several blocks to the segregated white school. Why? Because it was always sweltering hot at the end of the year, and the white school had air conditioning. Black school didn't have any. And he said, that has always stuck with me, Peter, that it was one of the most humiliating experiences of my youth. And it's a long-winded way of saying there's still a lot of economic redlining, we call it, of distinctions and disenfranchisement and penalties wielded against people of color, which is, you know, but right now it's kind of transmogrified into a little bit of economic redlining is what I call it. Yeah. And we simply need to face that. And there's a way out of that, which is making investments, because the investments will allow the entire state to expand its GDP, its gross domestic product. And that's the way to deal with this in this climate. But Black History Month is a chance for us to reflect on how far we need to go. And I would love to see a center of national excellence located in some of our historically Black colleges. We have 4 amazing public HBCUs in Maryland. I'd like to see them be the host of a national center for the study of Black issues, Black, not so much history. I'd like to see a national center created in those HBCUs where they have something that they're studying about this situation that you're bringing up, so that we're not just every once in a while having a Black History Month or a Black History holiday or something. Yeah. But we're understanding and continuing to research and continuing to improve upon our society, which is far from perfect. I love capitalism. I love the private sector. I love the free enterprise system. I was in the Army. I love America, but we have some flaws, and we need to work on them. And, absolutely. So I'm going to work on that down the road. And thank you for the question. It's
no, thank you for your leadership. Last question before I let you go. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't mentioned? Anything you want to share with the viewers? And take a minute or two to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want to emphasize to people that, you know, this COVID has been a year and a half or 2 years of real trauma for the state. And I really empathize with a lot of people in the state, not just the bottom 1/3 of our workforce who are financially affected, but all of us have been affected. I mean, I'm just thinking about the fact that I haven't seen a movie in 2 years. I mean, I'm not talking about a movie on TV. No, I'm talking about going to a theater.
Yeah.
And so we've had not only economic consequences, we've had psychological trauma. And I just want to emphasize to the 6 million people in Maryland that government has tried, but we've dropped the ball a lot. And we need to come together now. We have a lot of politics out there, but I'm emphasizing to people that we're better off together. And we need to focus on things like restoring our trust and confidence in a truthful government. And I know that's difficult for some people, but that's key to our making progress. And I'm delighted that we have a $6 billion surplus. I'm delighted that our pension fund that I'm chair of the board of trustees of is at a 26% return last year, and that we're on our path to full funding. I'm delighted that Board of Revenue Estimate, the Board of Public Works that I serve on, we've had an 86% reduction in single bid contracts, which are a huge problem. And now we're getting rid of those, and we're getting rid of the waivers, and we're championing small businesses more. But all I'm suggesting to folks is that we need to work together to make sure that we can restore some of the confidence and trust. Yep. My one suggestion to the governor is that he fix every pothole in the state on state roads, pick up the trash along state roads, and get every state agency to do what my agency does, which is answer the phone on time, or within, let's say, within 5 minutes would be a lot better than what we have now. But if we can do those little things, I think we can do some big things. And I'm very optimistic about the state. I love the shore. Obviously, I'm over there, used to be over there so often, and appreciate the character and the history and the culture so much of your region, but also Western Maryland and Southern Maryland and up in the Northeast part of the state.
Absolutely.
So all hats off to everybody in your circle. And if I can ever help the Rabbi Roundtable, you let me know.
Well, this is not the first time you've sat at the Rabbi's Roundtable, even virtually, and I'm appreciative of your time and you're sharing your leadership and your insights with us. We've been talking to our state comptroller, and Peter, thank you for sharing with us your vision. I know you have some other plans going forward. I hope those go well, and we will have you back on the Rabbi's Roundtable. Thank you very much.
God bless. Thank you.
You too, Peter. Again, thank you to Peter Prancho for taking the time to speak with us at the Rabbi's Roundtable. And Easton, we will be back momentarily. Thank you.
The Avalon Foundation and MCTV programming is proudly supported by Easton Hardware and Floor Covering. Since 1939, we're still there and we still care.
I got the shot, man, because I believe in the science.
I got vaccinated so I could hug my 5 kids and 14 grandkids.
We all got vaccinated
because we want to see you back in the theater.
Well, as a survivor of COVID, I really did it for other people.
I've also had the virus. I do not want it again.
We got COVID and then they sent me to Johns Hopkins. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing anyone could ever go through.
I genuinely feel like it's my patriotic duty to get vaccinated.
Do it for your state, do it for your country, do it for you.
I talked to my friends and family in India and Pakistan, and they don't have that access whatsoever.
I'm tired of Zoom. You're tired of Zoom.
It's my turn to take a chance.
Take advantage of that privilege.
Get the vaccine, please, for me, for your family.
And I got it because of what she said.
And we are back, Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable, coming to you from the studios in the basement of the Avalon Theater, MCTV, for which I am very grateful for them allowing me to do this. And I have another special guest, not a stranger to the Rabbi's Roundtable for sure, but the mayor of Easton, Robert Willie. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Just a couple of things that we should discuss. There's so much going on in Easton. And I'll have you comment about what's going to happen and a couple of questions about what's happened. I know that we have a St. Patrick's Day parade coming up.
Yes.
And there's a potato race. You'll have to tell us about that. And that's scheduled for March 17th at 5:30 p.m., correct? Is that both the parade and the potato race? Or?
The parade starts early, and as soon as that's over, they jump immediately into the potato race.
And what is a potato race? I apologize for my ignorance.
Well, it's a point of contention with a lot of people because they feel like the rules weren't followed. But basically, you take your potato and put it on a spoon, and you dash off to a goal, turn around and come back with your potato.
Oh.
If you drop it, you have to stop, put it back on the spoon, and the first one back starts another. It's a relay race.
Oh, it's a relay. Very cool. So the idea is to not drop the potato.
Don't drop the potato. And there have been people who say, well, he was holding on to the potato, or they started running before he got back to the line, you know, so we have to have judges.
That's very funny. And this parade will start at the excuse me, at the Circuit Court parking lot.
Yes.
Good. And head. Let's see. My notes say we'll head east on Dover, turn onto Washington Street, north on Goldsboro, turn onto Harrison, heading south to South Street, then north on Washington to Glenwood, west on Glenwood to the starting lot.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me. And if people are interested in finding out more about this,
they need to contact the Eastern Economic Development Commission.
Okay, yep. Okay.
Holly DeKarski.
Right.
And she can fill in all the details.
Yeah, the EEDC, which is, you know, I think an amazing organization.
Yeah. I sometimes get tongue-tied with too many E's. But
yeah, well, yes. So if you're interested in the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the potato race following the parade, please contact the EEDC, the Eastern Economic Development Corporation, and they will provide you with all the information that we need. So there you go. And I know we just concluded a couple of things. Talk about Fire and Ice for a second. What was that, and how did you find it?
Fire and Ice, this was actually the second one that we had. We were kind of interrupted with the pandemic, as was everything, for a few years. But it was a display around town, around the downtown area, of carvings, ice carvings.
Ice sculpture, oh, very
They
nice.
even had a couple of carvings being done as you stood there and watched. The guy was actually doing the carving itself. There was a band there. There was some food, and it was another good way for a small town for the people to get out and mingle and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had been shut in for the cold weather and all, and we happened to have a couple of good days, so it was a good chance to get out.
Nice. And how many people did you estimate?
I was up there on Friday evening, and it was chilly with the wind blowing, and I would suspect there was a few hundred people that various times were walking around the downtown. Nice. And they told me on Saturday afternoon there was a good crowd. Saturday afternoon they also had the stews and brews.
I was going to get to that. Yes.
That contest at the firehouse, and the fire department drew about 850 people to that festival.
I was told that they had no room. They were
sold out,
which is wonderful.
And they actually had people calling in to see if there was a chance they could get in for the last bit of it and so forth. But the fire company is looking for fundraisers, things that they can do to purchase equipment, do the activities that they want to do. And the stews and brews and the beer fest and the 5K race that's coming up next month. All of these things help them get their treasury back in line.
Wonderful. I had two of our fire officers on the show last time. They talked a little bit about it, but they were anticipating it, and I'm really glad to hear it was a success as it was.
Well, it gives them a chance to get together and they build up that rapport, that camaraderie that they have. And now, especially with so many young people that are joining the fire company, both men and women, it's really a good time for them and a chance for them to get out and know each other.
Absolutely. And we informed the listening and viewing audience that our fire department is totally volunteer.
Totally volunteer.
And so these kinds of activities, these kinds of opportunities, provide our community with a way of not only supporting them, you know, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, but also financially, and that's really important.
The town helps out quite a bit, but if you look at the equipment that the fire department has, the town owns 3 of the trucks. All the others belong to the volunteers.
Wow.
All of the ambulances and so forth that are run out of the firehouse, they belong to the volunteers.
Interesting. I didn't know. We didn't talk about that. Very cool. One of the big issues, and I know people saw the newspaper this morning. I know that we have a new police chief.
We do.
And he was you swore him in, I think, last night.
Monday night.
Monday night, yes, Monday night. any thoughts, any comments? I know we wish him well, and I haven't met him yet, but I will, and I'll bring him onto the Rabbis Roundtable. But this is a good change for not a negative comment, but it's change and progress and thoughts, comments, anything.
When the former police chief announced his retirement after, I think, 44 years is the amount of time that David had on the police force, we got to thinking of how we go about soliciting for a new chief for applicants and so forth. And we actually went into the Indeed process where they put the resume out nationwide and then people will reply to it. We had 70 or 71 replies, applicants that actually sent in resumes for the chief's job. Too many for a selection committee to look at, especially a lot of novice people that didn't know what the police chief actually did. So I had a group of current law officers. Most of them, in fact all of them, were either current or former state troopers that looked through the applications and kind of sorted them out and got us down to about 8 or 10 that they thought were quality candidates. We interviewed those people and then took a survey of the people on the selection committee. I had 6 people on that committee, and we came out with the police chief that we have now. He was offered the job. He was interviewed a second time. His background was with the Arlington Police Department, nationally recognized department that's a leader in a lot of areas, so we felt pretty comfortable with him. He has a doctorate degree. He was a lawyer early on.
I read that.
Which will help now with the accountability boards that are being put forth by the state legislature. So we just felt good with him that he would work with the department, work with the current force, help train, because we do have a young staff right now, a lot of young people on there. And he would be there and could set up the procedures and keep them moving forward. To our great pleasure, he accepted the offer, and he actually starts, I think he punches the time clock next Tuesday for the first time.
That's what I thought it was soon. Yes, I look forward to meeting him and inviting him on. I think.
Well, one thing you might know is that he's local. He lives in town. His father-in-law is Mike Noonan, who was the mortician.
I've worked with Mike for a long time. I mean, that's part of my job.
Yeah, you guys had a relationship, I guess, in the business world.
Oh, well, you know, yes, we won't go into that, but that's fine, you know. Yes, I didn't know that. That's really interesting. That's wonderful.
But we just feel like he's a good choice, and he'll do well with the police department. And like I say, he's a kind of a teacher that we were looking for, and has the ability, has the background, has the experience. He was in charge, I think, of 149 officers in Arlington.
Wow.
So it was a rather sizable force.
Yep.
And really, to back him up and support him, at the meeting Monday night, there were several of the Easton police officers there, and there were even some that came over from Arlington that were there.
Nice. Very nice.
So his chief was there, and some of the guys that he actually worked with.
Terrific. I look forward to meeting him, and we wish him well for sure. And obviously, because of his relationship, he's not totally unfamiliar with who we are and what we are.
He is not, and
that's important.
He goes to the Baptist church, which I happen to go to.
Oh, good.
And I really didn't know that he was even a police officer until the 9/11 ceremony we had out there this past year.
Oh, interesting.
So,
all right. Well, you know, like I said, I wish him well, and I look forward to meeting him. Anything that on your list that you want to speak about that we haven't really addressed, or anything you want to share with?
Well, I would like to go over a couple of things that we've got going on. If you haven't realized it in the last year or two, and for the next several months, Easton's a busy place with street repairs and utility repairs. And,
no kidding.
And it's going on, and it'll keep going on for several more months. Goldsboro Street is the latest one right now, out by the country school, where we had a failing water main. And to take that up, we felt, well, while we've got the street wrecked, we'll go ahead and replace the other utility lines and then replace the street paving and the curb and gutter, wherever it needs to be done. So that's going along, I think, just a little bit behind schedule, but the weather's been good, so we hope to finish that up in the next week or 10 days.
Oh, terrific.
Maybe a little more. But that's only that one.
Well,
we'll get ready to take another one up.
All right. Well, listen, it's a sign of progress. It's the sign of a vibrant community that has concern for infrastructure and how we, as citizens, how we manage and deal. I think.
Well, hope we're doing it right, and I know it's an inconvenience to people, but each month when I send out my little blurb in the Economic Development newspaper, I put in there, please be patient because we're tearing something else up.
Well, and again, people have to look at it not as a negative, but as a positive. It's a good thing, and that's because of your leadership, and we're appreciative of that.
Well, one of the real issues that we have in town is stormwater drainage and so forth. So you're going to see several of those projects, although they won't actually disrupt traffic any more than is absolutely necessary. We do have about a half a dozen of those projects in the next year and a half that'll be going on.
Wow.
And if you see them, just remember, they're not forever. A couple of weeks and we'll have it done and be ready to go.
And it will make things better in the long run. So.
Yes.
Good.
And we've started again on the Rails to Trails project.
Yep.
If you notice on South Washington Street where they're starting to dig away the old railroad embankment there,
yep.
That's so that we can have an incline that's easily accessible to the handicapped and so forth.
Oh, very nice.
I think the incline is 5%, which is within the guidelines of what they can use. So we feel like that's going to be good, and it's going on around to Port Street. It'll jump Port Street and then you head on down to the Eastern Point.
Wow.
And Glenwood Avenue and those areas. So a lot of that stuff's going on. And while you're at Eastern Point, take a look at the new fence and the gate that's going up at the north end, because that's starting to pick up again. We had a 3 or 4 month delay getting materials in, but we now have them. So there's no more excuses for not doing it. So
it was a tough year and a half.
It is, and it's getting worse, really, on some of the items we're finding. That over a year is not an unusual lead time on some stuff.
Wow, okay. Well, it's, again, it speaks to the progress, to your leadership, and to the vision of the town, and those who
and on South Aurora Street, we finished the sidewalk.
Wonderful.
That finished up probably Friday.
Oh, terrific.
So now people don't have to walk in the road on South Washington or South Aurora. They have a sidewalk they can use.
That's really wonderful. That's terrific. Anything else?
The comp plan. This is done every 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot of citizen input to tell us where they think the town ought to be headed in the next 10 years.
Yep.
And that plan is due out probably the end of this year. They'll get down to putting ink to paper and getting it written up, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Wonderful.
But that's the plan for the next 10 years for the town of Easton of what we should be doing. There's already a lot of talk of annexations that are coming in. We have issues with affordable housing. We have issues with industrial land. All of these things need to be addressed, and we'll get them done.
I know we will. It's as I've always said, it's an amazing place to live, and you add to that ambiance. So thank you for your leadership and for your vision. You grew up here. I didn't. Although it's hard to believe I've been here a long time, well over 15 years. But the change and the growth in the city is really inspirational.
Well, you know, the town is really blessed, and I've said this a dozen times. The town is really blessed with the caliber of people who live here and the ones that have moved in, because everybody pitches in. They've worked on the commissions, they've worked on the committees, they've helped with the festivals. Wherever we've needed help, we've been able to get it.
Yeah, I think
so. It's not like everybody's coming in and just taking what's good
Right.
and going on about something else. But it's been a good working town, and I expect to see it go on like that for years to come.
I hope so. And you know, my admiration for the leadership at the Eastern Economic Development Corporation, which you have been a part of for a long time, is really powerful. And again, it speaks to the ambiance, the milieu, the atmosphere in which we live and exist. So thank you for all that you do, for your leadership, and I look forward to seeing it continue for a long time, because I'm not going anyplace.
Well, right now we're not going to run out of projects anytime soon, so we'll be all right.
Anyway, we have been talking with the mayor of Easton, my dear friend and our leader, Reverend Mayor. I don't know if it was a demotion or a promotion, but that's all right. Mayor Robert Willey, and thank you for your time, and I'll have you back, and whenever you feel
Let's
like
do it.
Yeah, you know, you'll update us on
I will do that.
what's going on. Easton, you have been seated at the Rabbi's Roundtable. It was a fun and interesting and informative session, and I'm grateful to the people at MCTV in whose studios we tape. And we will see you next time on the Rabbi's Roundtable.